Sorry, another name. But it's not that hard to cook. Like in terms of like you just look at the instructions. Like me and Scott made a lasagna one time together, and I mean that's one of our brothers. And I mean that wasn't hard. It's just you go to the store, you just you read the box, and you just follow the instructions. Like it's not actually hard to cook. I'm just lazy, you know. So I could probably learn and know how to make a lot of things. It's just you know.
Yeah, but then again, to me, that's embracing the suck because it takes time, it takes energy, it takes thinking through in order to cook. When I can just something's pre-made and I can just throw it in the microwave or I can just stick it in the oven or whatever. I don't have to do anything. It's that quicker, easier, more convenient type of attitude. And welcome to another episode of Competing for Christ. I'm your host, Dwayne, the Coach Smith, and
I'm Kyle the Big K Smith.
Kyle the Big K, Big Haircut Smith. Got a new haircut, looking fly.
Thank you.
So, Kyle, you've got your first track practice today.
Oi.
And are you excited about it?
See.
This is like your first track practice as a head coach, right?
See.
Yeah. And how many kids you got coming out?
Well, the people kept joining. Even today, I checked the count. Today, 88.
88 kids.
Yeah, at least I signed up.
Yeah.
But some dropped, but I've got just as many come on board. So I think I'm still on
around
88. They're on the final forms yet. So
yeah. Well, that's cool. Should be exciting. What's your big plans for today? It's your very first one, so you got an opening speech that you are ready to inspire and.
Yeah, I got my plan today was one, introduce myself, introduce the coaches. Not all of us are going to be there. I think it's going to be just me and Matt at the beginning of practice. I think Robert.
No one knows any of those people's names.
Okay,
so
yeah. But just introduce ourselves, expectations, and then get them excited to run track for their school and for themselves.
Yeah, that should be fun. So I was a middle school track coach at one time. Your mom and I were, and we learned along the way. So I'm sure you will too. But it should be fun. I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
Excited for you. So today we are talking about kind of pressing through obstacles, about attacking obstacles. When we were in high school and college, I can remember one time actually your mom was running in cross country, and we would run together. But one of the things her coach always would say, like in cross country, when there was a big hill, was attack the hill. And that was a motto that, Jill had always had in her head from her coaches that I would use myself. And not just, and I would use it for the teams that I was coaching, and I would also use it for different things in my life. Attack that hill. It's like having a different mindset. Like generally on hills, you kind of dread it, and you don't want to just destroy it. You want to just get through it. So, but that's not the right mindset. Kind of change the mindset. So that's kind of what we're talking about today: attacking the obstacles in sport and in life. I mean, what would you say that the biggest obstacle in life and in sport generally is?
Biggest obstacle in life and in sport? Both questions, are they different? Are you saying?
I would say, just from what I've heard you talk about before.
I think just doing things you don't want to do
Yeah.
is in both sport and in life is probably the biggest obstacle to overcome, because we're very selfish creatures. And it's like, I don't want to do this, but that's a fight that everyone has to make in life and in sport.
Yeah.
So I guess
So you would say the mind, basically. It's your mindset. And that's what I think too. I think the mind is the biggest obstacle. So I was listening to David Goggins. First of all, those who are listening and those who are watching on YouTube, if you can't stand someone saying the F word every other word, don't watch David Goggins. He is very motivational, but he is not very clean. And he's not afraid to be just what. So you kind of have to filter that out. I at least have to filter it out. Some people don't mind it. Most people maybe who are listening to us or watching us on YouTube, that might be they may be offended by it. So that's just
Words
a warning.
Of wisdom. Words of wisdom.
Just a warning for those who don't know who David Goggins is. If you don't know who he is, why don't you explain who David Goggins is?
David Goggins is an ex-Navy SEAL. I think it was Navy SEAL, right?
Yeah. Well, at least went through Navy SEAL training.
Navy SEAL training. And pretty much the reason why he got all into this program, or the person he is today now, is because he just looked himself in the mirror and he's like, this is not the person I want to be. And so he had to kill the old him to become the person he is today. And so he just, and his way of doing that is just putting himself just through grueling workouts, 100-mile runs. His famous, who's going to carry the boats and the logs? That's one of his famous things. He'll push himself as far as he can physically, because in doing so, he's pushing himself as far as he can mentally. And that's kind of who he is. So what he does really now, he's just an inspirational. He still does that thing. He still does those things to this day, but he tries to motivate other people just through how he lives his own life.
Yeah. So he is, at one point he was over 300 pounds and out of shape. And he wanted to be, actually in the Air Force, Special Forces in the Air Force or something. But he didn't pass some of the training, so he just looked himself in the mirror. He's like, this is what I need to do. And he ended up, he's the only person who's done, passed the training for the Air Force, Special Forces, the Army Rangers, and the Navy SEALs. He's done all three.
Crazy.
I know. Super crazy. So I just think, it is inspirational. But like I said, he's colorful language. So if you are watching him, just be aware. So we're going to do, one of his things is that we were talking to a friend, and Kyle was talking about him. One of the things is his coach, some of the things that his coaches would tell him about when challenges come his way.
Want me to finish it?
He
would say to embrace the suck.
Embrace the suck.
Yeah.
And as I was looking at some of this, I just actually typed in "embrace the suck," and David Goggins came up. So it's I think it's maybe he's the one that kind of made that a little bit more popular.
Yeah.
Yeah, to make it more popular. So, but yeah, pushing yourself through hard things. So I don't know. What do you think about that term, that idea of what does it invoke in you, or what kind of what kind of things have you gone through that you have had to embrace the suck? What are some experiences that you may have had? I don't actually say embrace the suck to my kids. I've never said that.
No, it's a new thing.
Yeah.
I think my first time Dad ever heard it was yesterday. Is that the first time you ever heard someone say
I've heard you say it before.
You say it, okay.
Yeah, but it wasn't until you were in college, so first time I ever heard it. But I would do a lot of things to push my players. And basically, I would use this analogy, like you don't know how far you can go or unless you push yourself to the limit, and I would tell them, like, if you are, I would do this a lot, if you are driving in a car and you've got, your gas tank goes to empty, you're still not empty. You still got gas in there. The little measure says that you're empty. The little, what do you call it? The gas gauge says you're empty, but there's still gas in there. You can still go a little bit further. Dad knows
from experience.
I do know from experience. You can keep going. And even when those digital ones, they'll say, tells you how many miles to empty. And they'll say, get to 0 miles to empty. Nah, you can still go just a little further. But you don't know how much further you can go until you do it. Until you do it. And so basically I would tell my kids, even when you think that you're on empty, even when everything is telling you that you are empty, you can still give a little bit more. And so I would tell them to push themselves and push themselves and push themselves. And some people would realize that, like, I thought I was done, but I'm not. I wasn't. And they kind of learned that lesson through some of the exercises and things, that the drills that we'd push them through. So that in that manner, that embrace the suck was kind of perpetrated, even though I didn't know what that term actually meant. I was like, push through the pain type idea. There was another phrase you said that your coach would say.
Pressure is privilege.
Oh, pressure is privilege. Yeah, I like that too.
So I'll respond to your question, but first I have a question for you.
Okay.
You talked to me a little bit about what you told your, like, metaphors or images that you helped to help translate or not translate, communicate that idea to push through, like going farther than what you think your limits is. Like, you never know until you try and just go for it. Can you point in things in your life, athletically, or in your life? I'll answer that question because you asked that question for me, and then I would like to hear yours too, when you recognize that as well. But for me, athletically speaking, the ones I could think of most will happen. The one thing that's coming to my mind right now, it's conference, going into conference my junior year, crazy. High
school or college?
College.
Okay.
And I was going into at Grace. I was one of the fastest runners on the team my freshman year. Come my sophomore year, this is the year of COVID, I was still one of the fastest runners of the team. But this one guy, can I say names?
If you want.
Isaac Beatty, he comes up and he's just right by my tail. I run 155 outdoor, and then his freshman year, he's running 155 indoor and at nationals. And I was like, man, if I don't get my stuff together, this guy's going to be better and faster than me. We go, and then COVID happened. We don't have an outdoor season. We come into the junior year season. I'm like 207 pounds, heaviest I've ever been going to soccer season. I get COVID, and then I'm a little flat going into the indoor season. And everyone in practice, like I get beat by Luke, my twin. That's the story we were talking about yesterday. Isaac won meet. Maurice won meet. Not in a race, but in in time wise, he beat me we all ran the 4x8, and he had a faster split than I did. And I'm coming into the season as the fastest 800 runner on the team, and all my teammates are beating me. And I remember right before conference, a week before conference, I'd think to myself, am I the person that my teammates need me to be? Because I don't think I am. I'm always the anchor leg, but I'm not. They can't count on me in the way that I feel like you ought to count on someone who will be your anchor. And I did a workout and I puked, and I just something has to change. So within, I think, 2 weeks going to conference, so you're not going to see much change. But 2 weeks or just a week going into conference, I was just like, I went psycho mode in terms of like what I did. That's when I started enacting. This happened my junior year. I enacted all my dieting and my, like I said, no more bread, no more anything dairy, no more sodas, nothing processed. Like anything that comes in the package, I'm not going to eat, and I'm just going to eat nothing but whole foods. Like do my best to eat whole foods and drink at least 1.5 gallons of water a day. And if I'm going to get any type of carbohydrates in my systems, I make sure it's a potato, and then protein, I make sure it's chicken. Anything else, and then I ate a bunch of spinach. Like that's kind of my diet. And I just had to, that process at the beginning, when you're so used to a certain type of lifestyle, it sucks. But in terms of like tracks, even outside of it, you might thinking like what's like in sport, and like you might think actually in the competition, but I'm thinking stuff outside the competition. That's what I had to embrace. I could do a workout, I could crush a workout, and I hit the times. But outside of practice, that's what was really hard, to actually change your lifestyle. Like you have to like mold your life differently to be successful on the track. It's just a different way of thinking. And I'll go to bed hungry. Because I also restricted my eating to after past 10 o'clock. No really reason to eat. I went to bed at 10, woke up at 7. I went to breakfast after that. But after 10, I didn't put nothing in my body. And I would go to bed hungry. And I just said no. And I hated it, but I embraced it because I knew that if I took care of myself outside of the track, I'll perform better inside the track. Conference comes, I split a 155 in our 4x8. I didn't have a great rest of the performance in the season, but I mean in that conference meet. But I had a decent 800 split. We go to nationals. Split 155 again. In the finals, split 157. But in my head, I wasn't really still care about the times because I knew that I was doing the right thing for my body. The moment we get to step on outdoor track, I start with a 202. My first ever split in my junior year on indoor was a 202 800. And then my first ever, I ran the open 800. First meet outdoor, I went on 152. I shaved 10 seconds from my first meet indoor to my first meet outdoor. And it's like, well, how did that happen? Because my times and practices were all the same in terms of like how I was hitting them, but me and my body, my mind, and how I prepared for those practices and those meets was totally different. And it wasn't a fun process, but but I embraced that process, and from it became better.
Now, did it become habit too, or like did the suck it eventually go away?
Yeah, but it came a part of a joy. I actually like I could not eat things that were processed for a long time, or even dairy products. And so much of it became a problem. Like I had to like became a problem. But it became so much of a habit where it's like not like an identity, but it's just because like I don't eat this. I'm known for drinking water. I'm known for all this kind of stuff. And it wasn't like I lived my life to perpetuate that image. It was just this kind of it became part of who I was. But yeah.
Yeah, I think when I'm thinking about it, for me, most of it was generally in high school or college. The biggest thing was overcoming some of the negative images or negative things that people would say to me, especially from middle school to high school, because I was always pretty heavy. And I was always quote unquote, the fat kid. But I enjoyed the sports and stuff. And so, like I said, we talked about it in another podcast where, one of my coaches said that I would never amount to anything in sport. So I could have easily stopped, doing what I was doing and just like tried to pursue other avenues. But I did enjoy some of the things that I was participating in, and I think it was middle school soccer. Scott Sanders was the coach. He was the coach for my middle school soccer team. And he was cool, man. He was a cool one of those kind of probably like you. He was like just out of college, and it was like his first kind of thing. But he was a good soccer player for the school for Worthington Christian, where I was going to school, and like one of the good soccer players. So and he was coming back, but he would really push us, and I was always the very last person in every little thing that we would do. His big thing was anytime he was upset with us, he would just take his finger and go. So then we'd all just have to stop what we're doing and just start doing laps until he said stop. And I was always last, like way last in whatever we were doing. And it stunk. It was trying to embrace the suck, like pushing myself through it, but never, ever giving up. And I can remember at the end of that season, I was given the award of like the hardest worker or something like that. It was, it wasn't the best. It wasn't the most improved, any of that stuff, but they recognized that I never gave up and that I embraced the pain and whatever I was going through. I never gave up. My dad helped me make this little plaque as a gift to him, and it was just a plaque on the outside that had like a little shelf, and then underneath the shelf there was a finger sticking up with a stick on the bottom, and you can rotate the stick, and the hand would go like this. That's what I gave him for a thank you gift for kind of pushing us. And then through middle school, then into high school, I kept pushing that way and just kept improving, and then I ended up being going to college on a soccer scholarship, soccer and track scholarship. So it was very much so embracing it, and then just like you were saying, it became a little bit habitual and the things that I expected, and it wasn't as. I mean, there's times in every practice that you're like dreading something. I know I've heard you talk about in high school that your high school coach would push you, and there are times in practice you're like, I don't want to go to practice.
No, yeah, and that was definitely a thing. But it wasn't until college that you just turned to embracing it. Like it's just like, I remember I was like, talking to Coach Pointer, and I was showing him a workout. I was like, man, I would hate.
This was your college coach.
My college coach, yeah. I said, and I was telling him about this. Do you see these workouts? He did this, like an insane workout. I would hate to do that workout. And then he said, why would you hate to do something that's going to make you better? And I was just like, oh, I don't know how to answer that, coach. You know what I'm saying? But then I just like, you just start, because like I used to dread them. Like, why would, like, I don't want to go through pain. I was like, but why not? Why not? And I never had to answer that question. And I was like, why not? And it's like, once you confront that question, why not? It's like, either, like, yeah, I don't like the pain, but like, why not look at that as an opportunity to learn and grow, And so that's kind of like how that mindset all just shifted. And that's so when you talk about embrace the suck, if we had to unpack what that means, is embracing something doesn't mean you see something, does not mean you see something ahead of you, see that it's painful, bad in some way, and just like turn a frown upside down and like, oh, it's fine. It's like, it's not that. It's like you're embracing it. It's like you're welcoming it in and accepting for what it is and knowing and then using that to propel you forward. Mm-hmm. That's what to embrace something. It's not just to look at it and like, just like, just not recognize it for what it is. It sucks. Yeah. Right. But embrace it and accept it and let that propel you to go forward and become better.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do think that, I mean, this is like you said, this concept from, I think it's David Goggins first kind of coined it, or at least made it popular. It's more recent, but this idea of growing through toil is like a universal concept. It's actually a universal truth. I mean, like nothing that grows it's easy. It takes time. It takes pain. It takes death, and some. I mean, like nature shows you that in order for a tree to grow from a seed, that seed has to die and be buried before it turns into, the tree that it's going to turn into. There's got to be a death to self in order to grow, in order to be where you want, what God wants you to be. And I think that's just a universal truth. And there are lots of different verses, like, trial verses or perseverance verses. Let's just read a few. So, some of the things that, come to most people's minds, like in James, James 1. Just read this. This was with trials and temptations. But James says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance." I mean, that's the whole goal, is to be able to withstand the next time you come across something that's difficult. And the way you get there is to, basically you have to go through it. You have to go through the pain in order for you to grow, and in order for you to persevere the next time that same thing happens to you. Romans 5, 3-5, it says, let's see here. "Not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance produces character, and character produces hope. And hope does not put us to shame, because God's love has been poured into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us." And those two verses are just like, okay, you're going to go through suffering, you're going to go through trials, you're going to go through things. Some you can, and this is what David Goggins says, he actually puts himself in situations. It's not just things that your coach tells you that, okay, we got to go through and run this hill, or we got to do this workout, but sometimes you're getting put in that and you've got no choice. And sometimes you're like, you don't have a coach around or a parent around or whatever, and you're like, I'm going to put myself through something difficult, and in that way you grow.
Have you done that?
Put myself through stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do it all the time.
Like
I hate going to the gym. Hate it. But I try and make it fun, and I still try and go, at least, if I don't go every day, I try and go at least 4 days a week. So, yeah, I don't like to, and I think overall, this is another point I wanted to make. Do you think, just out of curiosity, do you think it's good that we, as a society, try to make things easier? We try and make things quicker or faster. We try and make things more convenient. That's what progress looks like? Mm-hmm. Do you think that's good, or do you think we should continue to do things that are, harder, slower, more difficult?
I think both. I think it can be good and it can be bad, depending on how it's used, or how they say with technology, how that's used, or how, I don't know, how we implement. I can't think of concrete examples. Let me think of concrete examples, actually. So, like, in an instance, like, I don't know, just even like, for example, I'm thinking about I just wash my clothes, right? I mean, there's probably a lot of valuable lessons you can learn in hand
washing with a washboard,
scrubbing, and then soak it, let dry, all that kind of stuff. There's probably a lot of lessons you could learn, because it takes a lot of time out of your day to do that whole process. Not just, you don't just throw things in the washer now and then leave it to do its thing for about an hour, and then come back and put it in the dryer. Like that does, like that is an actual process, and that takes a lot of space of your day. Now when that's gone, that frees you up to do other things that like we could do this podcast or something like that, or some other good things. Like I do think some technology and advancements in society and and inventions are good things, and it's good that things. But then how do we use those things, and then what do you do now that we have time, because the time it created, like what do you use with that time? Because we could sit on our phone all day and just watch YouTube videos and mindlessly watching Netflix and without any real purpose other than just to like pass time by. Or you could go and do something to make a positive impact in this world. I think, kind of when you approached me with this podcast idea, it's like this is something like you want to do, and like there's a lot of things we could fill our time with right now. That's not this podcast, that are not fruitful, but this is fruitful. Like this is our chance to make an impact on those listening to us and everything like that. That's kind of like, when I make my devotional plan that I'm working on too, or when I make anything that's artistic or takes a lot of time and energy, it's like it's for the purpose of actually making a better future. And I'm using a lot of things, that technology, like a computer, this phone, these microphones. We're in a house with AC or a HVAC system, so it's like there's a lot of good that comes out, and good that comes out of progress and improvement. Like there's a lot of things we don't have to stress over, and I think that's good. Then again, in that same environment, we could use this same technology just for nothingness, and that's not good.
Yeah, I just feel like I agree with you. There are some things, however, I do think that we depend on the technology more and more, and I think, in my opinion, and you guys can comment if you think this is true.
Let us know.
Probably older ones may agree with me, younger ones may not, but things like, simple things that we do, to me, make us a little bit dumber. I think we're using less brain power because we don't have to use brain power. For example, like the GPS. It's nice and it's convenient, but a lot of people don't know their sense of directions just because they don't know north, south, east, and west. They don't know streets. They don't know the geographical area that they live in, because they just depend on GPS. They don't even, if somebody was trying to explain to them, where something is, and they would say on the west side of, Lake Street, or they would be like, I have no idea what you're talking about, just because you haven't been grown up with maps, and, because you're so reliant on the GPS. Same with simple math stuff. Now people don't even think about math in their head. You kind of used to be drilled with that. Now we just use a calculator because I don't have to think about it. I can just let me put it in here, and I don't have to think it through. And I just do think that we lose some of the brain power, or some of the artistic things of cooking. It's so much easier to just buy something, pop it in a microwave, or get fast food or whatever, and you lose that art of cooking, or even passing down. I learned the art of cooking with my parents. My mom was a great cook and taught me a lot of things, and I can cook, but with just convenience and just trying to get things faster, I don't do it. And then I never really taught my kids to do it. Mm-hmm. And
I didn't really learn until last year, really. And all I really make is pasta and eggs and toast.
Yeah. And do you think that's good? Or
I could make that thing. I was talking to Corey, one of our friends. Sorry, another name. But it's not that hard to cook. In terms of you just look at the instructions. Me and Scott made a lasagna one time together. And that's one of our brothers. And I mean, that wasn't hard. It's just you go to the store, you just read the box, and you just follow the instructions. Like, it's not actually hard to cook. I'm just lazy, you know. So I could probably learn and know how to make a lot of things. It's just
Yeah, but then again, to me, that's embracing the suck, because it takes time, it takes energy, it takes thinking through in order to cook. When I can just, something's pre-made and I can just throw it in the microwave, or I can just stick it in the oven or whatever, and I don't have to do anything. It's that quicker, easier, more convenient type of attitude.
I'll tell you another thing. This is just me. 'Cause I have a problem. One reason why I don't like to cook either, too, is because that much. It's because I know when I do, literally I have a problem. Like, I'll make more, and I make more. Like there'll be times where I have a whole box, like a 2-pound box of spaghetti, and it'll be gone in one sitting.
Yeah.
Because I would eat it. Well, not one sitting. It'd be a couple sittings. I would eat it, and then I got, like, say a quarter of it, and then I'm like, and once I finish it, wait a couple of hours. I'm like, I'm hungry again. Box gone, and it's just like, and spaghetti's cheap. It's like it's like less than $2. And I was like, dude, I really want to put all of that in here. You know, I'm just thinking in my head, like, I'm actually hurting myself. I have a very bad with self-control. And same thing, I have like have like bread and eggs and sausage, and I'd make all these sandwiches. I'd make 8 sandwiches or 8 burritos, breakfast burritos or something like that, and it tastes so good. But then it's like, man, now to go to the store again, and it's just hard for me to cook for myself sometimes, because I just know once I start, you just know that you have the power to, like, actually, like, make a different, like, to put something in your, like, body that tastes good and cheap and fast and fun, and cause it's fun to cook. It's fun.
Yeah.
But I just have a hard time sometimes because of that reason.
So we would have to embrace the suck of not like you desire something, and you desire something, but you have to, like you said, self-control. I think self-control sucks.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. We talk about atomic habits. We're not good. Me and Dad will talk about this, kind of go back and forth. And there's a lot of value in saying no to things. But human beings by nature are very bad at, by willpower, saying no to things.
Yeah.
You have to create environments to make it easier for that. And yeah, that's kind of like, and so, like, if you come with dieting or anything like that, and if you, for example, you could say no, like, I'd want to learn how to cook, right? I want to learn how to cook. And I want my kids to learn how to cook. And a very easy way to make sure that happens is just say, I'm not going to buy anything microwavable or, like, bakeable, like just frozen pizza or whatever. I'm not going to buy anything like cereal or that kind of stuff. And just buy things that if they want to eat, they could eat. All the food's there. They're just going to have to make it. And that decision is eliminated. Like, by not even going to the store. Like, you made a hard decision before it got even harder once you introduced that lifestyle inside your house. And so,
yeah, and partially that's true. In my house, it's a little bit more difficult because I will buy things to make it to cook, and then when I go to cook it, it's gone, because you can also eat it individually. And I'm like, wait, I was saving that for this recipe, and I have to go back to the store and buy something else again.
Like what?
Whatever it could be. Like, if I want to make banana bread, and I buy a bunch of bananas, and then I go back to make my banana bread because I got to wait for them to whatever, and they're gone. And I'm like, oh my gosh, now I have to buy more bananas and wait even longer for them to get bad. So you almost have to hide stuff in order for it to get to use for what you want it to be used for. But it just happens.
That's a conversation needs to be talked off podcast. Because
no, it's not just you. Then when Chad's here, he's the same thing. It doesn't matter. I'm just saying in the house. And
but I just like banana. I will eat banana bread. But I like just bananas, Like, I actually I'm a whole food kind of guy. Like, I understand. Eat apples, just eat
but that's
bananas.
what I'm trying to say. Like, even with your example, you buy the different things in order to make it, but convenience makes it like, oh, I'll just eat this as it is. I can just eat this right now, and I don't have to go through this whole process of waiting or cooking or doing whatever.
I said, yeah, but
wouldn't you like
meaning,
that better? Like,
no, I like bananas better than banana bread.
I understand. I'm saying, but like, I want to make some applesauce. Oh, but I got all these apples. No, I'm just gonna eat these apples. Forget the applesauce. I don't want to go through that process. I just want to eat the apples.
I'm not a huge fan of. Like I said, I'd rather eat apples and have applesauce. I like applesauce. If I want to make applesauce and I had it in my mind, like, but it's not something I want to make every single week or every. It's like I'd rather just.
I get it.
It's like I would learn the skill for an occasion, but like it's like, hey, it's like, oh, it'd be cool if we had some applesauce or something like that. But it's not something I would plan to eat or like a daily, like a meal type thing. Like I'd rather have, like, I like whole foods. So as a banana, an apple, like that's kind of like how.
I get it.
And it's not, I don't think it's lazy or like it's literally, it's not even about the process. I would enjoy the process.
I think people were arguing here on the thing, but if we had, for example, you have something that's been prepared meal wise, but you also have like just bananas and apples and doing whatever. Most of the time, you're like, oh, this is what was prepared for the meal. I'll go ahead and eat that. I won't eat these apples and these bananas or whatever. That's because convenience. It's there. I can eat it. It's not necessarily what I just prefer. Because, like you're saying, I prefer just apples and bananas and I don't know if you like carrots or because you don't eat those as much, but other things. But it's just quick. It's like open the refrigerator. What can I eat now? Open the fridge, open the cabinets. I think we all do this. Open the cabinets. What can I eat now? That I don't have to sit around and prepare or think about or anything like that. That's the suck that I think we lack to embrace sometimes.
Next topic.
Next topic. I'm sure you guys that are listening or watching on YouTube have gone through this, especially you parents who have kids that just eat you out of house and home sometimes on there. So I think in general that embracing the suck or kind of going through or attacking obstacles really boils down to partially self-control and then partially humility, like being able to, as you had said, dying to yourself in order for you to grow. And that made me think of another verse, which was in James 4:10. And this is what God basically says: in order for you to be lifted up or get to where you want to be, you have to humble yourself. It's James 4:10. Where is it? Humble yourself in the sight of the Lord, and He will lift you up. So in order to grow, or in order to be lifted up to where you want to be, it takes humility on yourself. I have to become less so that He can become greater, and then He will lift me up. That kind of idea. What do you think about that? Just overall, is that I think humility is a big. We talk a little bit about less like how life works in the best way, and one of the things you say a lot, love pretty much conquers all, which is also a universal truth. I think humility is one of the biggest things as well.
Mm-hmm. I think humility is probably one of the biggest things, because one of my favorite verses, let's see, Philippians 2:2-3. Comics fact checked me on this one, or Dad,
I can look it up.
Mm-hmm. But it says, "Do not look not only to your own interests, but also the interests of others. Do nothing out of
selfish ambition.
Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Mm-hmm. Vain conceit. Rather than humility, value others better than yourselves." Mm-hmm. And I think when we do adopt that mindset, and that one, we mirror Christ in how we look and treat other people. But two, I do think we are contributing to a better world, a world permeated by love. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of that starts with that humble attitude.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, and I do think that to me is attacking those. It's helpful to attack those obstacles. Is that you have to sometimes humble yourself and say, I can't do this on my own, or I need help doing this, or as you've said, we need others to help us go through life. And especially as guys, sometimes we think we can do stuff on our own, or we're trying to do it on our own power, and it's difficult to humble yourself and just think, okay, I need help with this because on my own I can't do it type idea. What'd you say? Philippians, what you thought it was?
2 to 3, I think.
Philippians 2. Yep, you got it. Then make my joy complete by being like-minded, having the same love, being in one spirit and in one mind. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking for your own interest, humility, but each of you to the interest of others. In your relationships with one another, have the same mindset as Christ. Good. Yeah. I think that is to accomplish things. The best things to accomplish is for other people, not for yourself. And to humble yourself in the Lord's sight and let Him lift you up, but not lifting yourself up is a big key. Yeah. So, attacking that hill, embracing the suck. What is any other examples that you may have, or things that how would you plan on teaching this principle to, now that you have your first practice here, to these 88 athletes that you're getting ready to influence?
Well,
because I know that they're going to
hate it.
Some of the things are going to be like, some people who are quote unquote sprinters or see themselves as sprinters, and they have to run a little bit longer distance, or someone who self sees them as just a field athlete. I just want to throw the shot put, but you're going to make them do certain things that are like, I don't want to do this. Or, and it's middle school, so you're going to have to weigh on, but you want to also really, you do want to push them.
Yeah.
As not just as athletes, but you want to push them as people.
Yeah, and the character and the relationship with others and the relationship with God, strive for better, strive for more. That's a good question. I think as part of the reason why I was initially, when I was applying, I wanted to be with the high schoolers, because I think anything closer to the college level, I have a little bit easier time. I could relate to all kids, I think, from elementary up to all people. I feel like I have a good way of doing that. But in terms of instilling that drive to push through times when things get difficult, to keep continuing on pushing, I feel like it's easier to translate to the high school athletes than the middle school athletes, because a lot of the middle school athletes, you already know, are they're just out there to have fun, and that's good, and to see and explore something that they may or may not like. Now, when you get to high school, they've already, most likely, most of them made that decision already, especially the older kids, sophomores, juniors, and seniors. And knowing that, I was like, okay, it'd be easier to speak to them, because they've, without even really talking to them, we've already made, we are kind of on the same page. But yeah, good question. I don't know how to answer that question right now, but
it's a challenge.
Modeling, I think one way is modeling that behavior, and in just simple ways, not even on the track, but just the way that you approach, the way that I do my emails or respond to parents or respond to the kids and their questions, to actually just take time out of my day and not just flippantly just answer the questions, or just to actually engage with them, and then won't like let them or let both of us really come out of that conversation without a good understanding of what's been said or something like that. And like those are small ways to by example showing them to embrace things. Like it's even like, and I think in one way we could do it just through even simple conversations. Even and as a coach, one thing I love my college coaches, all my college coaches, and my high school coaches, and my club coaches, Coach Strick out there too. But one thing I admire about Coach Pointer is that you didn't have to see, like you knew, like you didn't have to see him work. Like I didn't know how much work he did, like, but I know he worked his butt off because of how he would approach just how he approached practice and how he approached us as athletes. I think that's kind of how I do the same. Like it's not just all the work. The work will be evident, and once I interact with them, just through the way that I just approach them. And I think in seeing Coach doing what he did inspired me to be the same. Like, well, how can I not run for this guy? You know, like he puts all this time for me. At the very least, to show my appreciation back to him is to put just as much work into what I'm doing, you know? Mm-hmm. And so, because he's given me all these resources, why not? Mm-hmm. And so, if I think that's kind of my mindset.
Yeah. I do think encouragement and praise will go a long way, especially for middle schoolers. Mm-hmm. And when you are pushing them and they go through it, and just to praise them, like, I can't believe you just did that. Can you believe you just did that? That's incredible. Just being able to, praise them, especially even in front of their peers. And again, that's probably that story I told you before. That's what my middle school coach did for me when I was last on all the things. Like, he would say, but he never gives up, to everybody else on the team, seeing that I'm last. And he's like, still praising me for that. And that made me motivated to keep on going. Like, okay, if he sees me as a person who never gives up, then I'm never going to give up. Uh-huh. I basically went into that identity, which I thought was, I don't know if Scott Sanders, you'll ever see this, but I appreciate that.
Love you, Scott.
A little bit of advice. Actually, he may have passed away, so I can't remember exactly. I think I heard that, actually, now that I think about it. At any rate, there is that's all I have. If there's anything else you have. Actually, I do have a thing. I wrote a poem that kind of encapsulates this idea of there's times when you are going to have to accept or embrace the suck, and you have to that God's going to put in your life. Sometimes you're putting it in your life yourself, but by choice, and sometimes not by choice, or by sin or not sinful ways. But sometimes God is putting it in your life so he can make you grow, because growth comes from suffering. Growth comes from pain. Growth comes from embracing the suck, right? So with that, no matter what you're doing in life, always remember to run in such a way that you will win the prize.
Peace.
Peace.